I'm Dr. Bob, and today we're going to make a dinner. We're going to make a very nice dinner, very nutritious dinner, something without sugar or, basically stuff that's bad for you. And this is going to be a cooked, made meal. It takes probably about 40 minutes, depending on whether or not the food is frozen. If it's frozen, it takes a little bit longer. You have to cook it a little bit longer. If it's a bigger meal, it's more dense, more stuff, you have to cook it a little bit longer. If it's smaller, it's less dense, cook it less. Today what I'm going to make is tilapia. Okay? Now, it's frozen, so I've taken it out of the freezer for about 10 minutes. Before we start any meal, the first part of the meal is, of course, wine. All right, I don't do anything until I start with a glass of wine. Okay, so start making the meal with a glass of wine. And of course, I poured the glass of wine, but I was busy with some other stuff, so I've already had half of this. So, as I said before, every meal begins with a glass of wine. With a woman, no more than one glass of wine. With a guy, no more than two. I like to have 2 glasses of wine before the meal. And I usually buy my wine, of course, by the box. Okay, so just it's box wine. I mean, you can pay $50 a bottle for a bottle of wine, but you can get 4 glasses out of it. But that's 2 meals, and that's $25 a meal. This has got 3 liters, equivalent to about 4 bottles of wine. Costs $14. So, and last I heard, wine is good for you. I don't know if I believe that, but I'm going with it. So anyway. We did start with a glass of wine, and we have tilapia. And the most important thing is to make sure you have a dish that's going to take it. And I'm just going to compare it, right? So I looked at that and I said, well, will this hold this piece? Because you have bigger dishes. If you have a bigger meal or more mouths to feed, then you go with bigger dishes, right? But it's just me, it's just one, so I'm having one little dish here. So let's put this big monster, I use this for really big pieces of food. So, and there are some fish that will fit in here. Some cuts of meat that will fit in here as well. Okay, so I want to emphasize that this is a very healthy meal. So the first thing, of course, is let's get the fish. Actually, what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of oil down in the dish. Okay, one of the first things I'm going to do before I get started on this is I'm going to set the oven for bake. And this will be a preheat and get it up to 400 degrees. So I'll set the oven for bake at 400 degrees, and we'll put a little bit, this is peanut oil. And so I put a little bit of peanut oil down inside here, and what that'll do is keep the food from sticking to the bottom of this glass plate. The next thing I'm going to do is cut the food out of its wrapping. Now this is frozen fish, and so it's going to take a little bit more time to thaw out. Of course, you can see it's frozen. And I played it right on top, and the important thing was to make sure the flat side, because when these things are frozen, they have a flat side and a rounded side. The flat side is to make sure that the meat makes contact with the plate, because what's going to get heated up here is this part of the plate. It's going to go into the oven, this is going to get heated, the heat is going to radiate through the plate into it, it's going to contact with the meat. The oil helps to secure the conduction of heat from the plate to the meat, to the food. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here, and of course this is optional, is I'm going to put a little bit of water in here. And what the water is going to do, it's going to do a couple of things, because I'm going to add some potatoes to this, add some diced potatoes to this. It's going to do two things. One thing it's going to do is going to keep the meat from drying out, okay? The other thing it's going to do is it's going to boil the potatoes, okay? So here's what I'm getting out next. I'm going to actually have quite a few potatoes. So I've taken a couple of little tiny potatoes. This, I would use probably an equivalent of a large potato, but this is relatively about right for me. This is enough for one person, one adult person like me to have. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and peel the potatoes. We're going to put the potatoes down inside here. So here's the first one. Okay, I don't want to get too much into peeling potatoes, but two things I do, and one thing I consider much more important than the other, is to rinse the potatoes before I peel them. And what this does is it gets a lot of the stuff off that's on the top of the potato, and it also makes it a little bit easier to peel. The other thing that I do, which may or may not be important, is I rinse off the potato peeler. Okay, so I'm going to peel these potatoes here and come back around for it. Okay, so I peeled a couple of potatoes. This one is done. I'm going to rinse this one off. I'm going to rinse off the potato peeler. You may have noticed that this is what they call a European style potato peeler. I don't care what style I use. I would actually prefer the old American style that I had before, but this is what I found when I went shopping for a potato peeler. I can't say that I like it, but I haven't been able to find a regular American style potato peeler. So that's it. The other thing is, here's the knife for cutting them. I'm going to dice these potatoes. But first, before I dice them, I'm going to rinse the blade. Okay, so I'm sure some of you have different styles or different ways. I cut them long ways against the flat, 4 equal squares, and then you notice that I'm not a speed dicer, and I don't care because this is all about the love and not about, making things in 30 seconds or cutting my fingers up like I almost just did. Okay, and now again, down the fat ways and then the skinny ways, that way. Okay, and then dicing these boys up. Something that's going to be a little bit more important here is going to be not so much how you dice the potatoes, but what you put in with it. Again, I'm going to rinse this off because all it's got is a few potato stuff on it, which go right back into the rinsing. Okay, next step is to let's drop our diced potatoes. Let's drop our diced potatoes into our baking dish. Now bear in mind that I'm still got the oven preheating to 400. Actually, it's already preheated. It's ready to go. So I'm going to fill this guy up with potatoes. But I'm going to leave a bunch of the fish exposed because we've got some more stuff to do here. And one of the most important things we have to do here, and I recycle, this is a good paper dish. So I'm going to take this paper plate and I'm going to drop it into the paper recycle bin. Okay, now here comes the important part of this meal. When I get done here, I'm going to add a little bit of, and the one thing I have kind of forgotten here is, I don't think I've forgotten it yet, but I'm going to add some spices, and I'm going to back everything up here so that you can get a good look, because we've got a spice rack to include in our meal. Here's the spice rack right there. And I'm going to be grabbing stuff off the spice rack to add to this meal. So let's see. Make sure. Okay. Okay. So the oven is ready to go, but what the food is not. So what we're going to add to it. Flavor to your preference, always. Just flavor to what you like. I've just added a little bit of onion powder, ground coriander, a little bit of rough sage, cumin, paprika. Get all these down here. All the ones I plan on using. And then of course, the old reliable, a little bit of salt and pepper, garlic powder, and okay. So these are the stuff you traditionally use, right? All right. As I said, spice to your preference. So spice to what you like, and one of the ways that you can do that is whenever you go to spice something, you can smell it. Now the only thing you can't do that was the salt. You can smell salt, but it's not going to tell you anything, right? And I'm going to add a little bit of salt to my preference. If I want more, there's plenty on the table. Okay. A little bit of parsley. Guess I may as well just shoot that. Okay. These are parsley flakes. You'll notice my countertop is dirty, and the reason it's dirty is because I've got a lot of spilled spices over here. And of course I don't have a nice lady to come over here and clean it up for me. And I'm available, so just in case you ladies, I'll marry the first woman who comes to my house and cleans my dishes. Seriously, I need somebody to do something on my dishes. Alright, I have forgotten something very important. Pure lemon extract. Okay, now this has to be applied with a teaspoon. And it's best applied when the meat is still frozen, or because right now what it's going to do is it's going to slide off into the water, because I put a lot of water in here. What the water is doing is melting the frozen fish. But I take about a teaspoon, a little under a teaspoon, because this stuff is pretty explosive, pretty strong. And I can smell the lemon right here. Don't taste this, whatever you do. Don't stick this in. Pure acid almost. It's like putting your tongue, if you want to put your tongue on the frozen pole, then go ahead and stick your tongue on the lemon teaspoon. A little bit of pepper. Okay, so we have a little bit of salt, pepper, a little bit of parsley flakes, garlic. Now what I do, as I said, sniff it before you put it on. It tells you how much you want it. You crave this, right? You crave any garlic. Well, I almost always crave garlic, so I'm going to load this thing up. And then you're going to find out here shortly why I'm using so much water. The other thing is, you've got all the spices out here ready to go. Be sure and separate them as you put them, because you don't put anything twice, right? So here, just a little bit of onion powder. I don't like onions. I hate it. But I like the flavor of onions. I like the taste of it, the smell of it. So I'll load up with a little bit of onions. Okay, onion powder. Oregano's going on there, but it's going to go on last. One of the basics, paprika is a basic. This is a very important spice, which I think should go on just about everything. So here we have a little bit of paprika. Actually, it's quite a bit. You can see I covered this thing with paprika. My next favorite is cumin. And I has a real musky smell to it and a musky flavor, of course. And of course, I don't use as much as I do the paprika, but be sure to use some cumin, and that will give your food a deep flavor. Here's the cumin. The next thing, now I'm gonna just check all these. Do I feel like tarragon today? Yeah, okay, some. Not a lot, a little bit. So just grab a little fingerful, drop it on marjoram. Here's the marjoram. Let me see if I feel like that. Not much, actually. I'm not really. Thyme. Yeah, actually I'm feeling thyme today. So let's put some thyme in there. Okay, there's the thyme. Rubbed sage. Yeah, I don't know. Well, you can always, you know, it's not going to hurt anything. It's always going to add some flavor to it, but I'm just not. I wouldn't normally. Coriander, very nice. Let's see what it smells like. Yeah, it's hard for me to say. Maybe just a pinch. Maybe just a pinch. And you notice that the food is disappearing underneath the. And the last one is some sweet basil. Yeah, I'm not even smelling that. I don't know what it is. I know it's sweet basil. So we're going to drop a little bit on there and see if that makes any difference. And then finally, last but not least, is the oregano. Right? So we're going to just a little bit of oregano. And you'd think we're ready, but we're not. Thanks for watching my program.